Eric Dieter's the Bulldog on Real Talk 1160. Lots going around in the country, in the world, in the nation, and every place between. I hope you're ready for your daily dose of radio superbity. I would like to begin today by quoting Machiavelli. You've heard of Machiavelli, right? Of course you have. But you probably don't know much about Machiavelli. Machiavelli is famous for writing a book called The Prince. And in The Prince, Machiavelli sets forth maxims for being a ruler. He is the one who famously said that it is important to be loved and to be feared, but if you have to choose one, it's better to be feared than loved if you are a ruler. He was basically, for lack of a better word, he was part of the patronage of the great family that ruled Florence, the Medici family. And it's basically from that experience working with the Medicis that he came up with the idea of writing The Prince. And then he was later outcasted, and he traveled around to here to there. He was kind of like a hanger-on, somebody like you would like to have in a, if you were a king or a queen, you'd like to have Machiavelli at your dinner party because people would be intrigued by what he would have to say. In the Showtime show, The Borgias, Machiavelli is actually played in that series as the Borgias Pope sends his son to Florence to talk to the Medici. The quote of the day is from Machiavelli. The one who adapts his policy to the times prospers. And likewise, the one whose policy clashes with the demands of the time does not. Sounds like a classic flip-flop politician, change your mind to meet the needs, does it not?
It does.
You see what I'm saying? Things don't change very often, folks.
Okay, read that one more time.
The one who adapts his policy to the times prospers, and likewise, the one whose policy clashes with the demands of time does not.
Okay, here's an example. Let's say you are a politician and you are pro-life, okay? But because in the times we live in, there are a lot of, let's say, unwanted pregnancies, more than usual. That would be the times that we live in. Now, do you adopt your policies to those times, or do you stick by your guns?
Well, that is a great classic question, and of course, people like Mitt Romney have changed. How about Newt Gingrich doing a climate commercial with Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah, what's that all about?
And then, of course, well, I didn't mean to do. You know what happens is that certain circumstances yield themselves to a politician acting out in a certain way for some ulterior motive. Like, when Newt Gingrich retired from Congress, he was looking for friends and looking to be that statesman, getting along with everybody.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he said, well, maybe I want to run for President of the United States on the Republican Party. Whoops, maybe that wasn't too smart. Today in history, 1794, the U.S. Navy was formed. And you may not have known this, but the father of the United States Navy, the founder, was no other than John Adams. John Adams was a big believer in the Navy, saw the importance of the Navy. If you look back at the American Revolutionary times, one of the reasons why it was kind of a shocker that we ever beat Great Britain is because they had a Navy, we didn't. And the Battle of Yorktown was won because the French Navy blocked in Cornwallis and Yorktown. So it was easy for John Adams to recognize the need of a strong Navy. The Navy, then, this was another big part of the Navy history, is TR was the Assistant Secretary of the Navy. He actually resigned that position, by the way, to go fight in Cuba and run up San Juan Hill. But when he became president, he said, man, we got to build up our Navy. He actually started when he was the Secretary of the Navy. And he did, and he called it the Great White Fleet, and he just toured it around the world. But you look at what's, World War II, why we won in the Pacific, probably Battle of Midway. Knocked out the Japanese aircraft carriers. We had superiority on the seas. But it was all began in 1794. Little basketball news. Adolph Rupp retired in 1972 after 42 years of coaching at UK. And Ohio State, 1939. The first NCAA men's basketball championship. The University of Oregon, it's gone downhill from there, beat Ohio State 46-33. The Buckeyes lost in the national championship. Famous birthdays today. Mariah Carey's 41. 62 million albums sold. That's a lot of money. Quentin Tarantino's 49. Mr. Pulp Fiction. And Cale Yarborough, a once-upon-a-time Daytona, four-time Daytona 500 wins. Cale Yarborough. Sandra reports a military death. Sergeant Daniel Brown, 27, of Jerome, Idaho. In Kandahar, Afghanistan. And Captain Aaron Estrie, 37, also in Afghanistan. God bless them. Forecast today, mostly sunny. Scattered storms Wednesday, mostly sunny on Thursday. And by the way, the high of 60s. The warm weather is taking a small departure. History story. In the 1890s, a new health guru, Harvey Kellogg, had set up a sanitarium in Michigan where he taught others how to eat healthy and live longer. Many flocked to hear his charismatic wisdom. Kellogg was a medical doctor who believed that the American diet then was bad. It still is. He called the modern cooking the greatest bane of civilization. Can you imagine that in 1890, the American diet was considered bad? This is predated pizza. He felt the way to happiness and health is having a healthy digestive tract. That makes sense, Harvey. He believed most illnesses and deaths were due to indigestion and bad eating habits. Oh, well. He served healthy, low-calorie diets in a sanitarium, but worried what would happen to his patients when they return home. So he started experimenting, and he came up with Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Later, Kellogg's brother, Will Keith, took over the business. Will had a flair when it came to marketing. In one of Keith's first ads, he urged customers not to buy the new product because there wasn't enough available. That's pretty cool. And the cereal flew off the shelves. Kellogg may have invented the product, however, he was a little weird and a little too zealous. It is said that he gave himself an enema every day. Yuck! Whatever, it sounds extreme, but the man lived to see 90. Well, maybe that's the secret to a long life, folks. Cornflakes and enemas. So the next time you're chewing on a crunch cornflake, don't think of enemas. Think of the Kellogg family.
Think digestion.
And do you know who came up? His competitor was right there in old Battle Creek, Michigan, the Post family.
The Postman.
Humor. This is short and sweet because we were running short of a joke today. There's a big pit. In the pit, Jacob, and TC is a huge man eating Bengal tiger, an extremely venomous king cobra, and a lawyer. You are given a gun with 2 bullets and then thrown into the pit. What do? Shoot the lawyer twice. Because a lawyer is more dangerous, Jacob, than a man eating Bengal tiger and a king cobra. Do you understand?
We got that one.
Jacob's a little slow today. What the heck, Jacob? Come on, buddy.
We're both laughing on the inside, right?
Yeah. That's right. Not much in pop culture to report except the following. Jane Fonda could be playing Nancy Reagan in an upcoming film called The Butler.
Is it in the stars?
That's a good question. Directed by Lee Daniels, the film follows White House butler Eugene Allen and the 34 years he spent working at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Forrest Whitaker is currently in talks to play Allen, with Oprah playing his wife. Liam Neeson and John Cusack are considered for presidential roles of Johnson and Nixon. What? John Cusack, Nixon?
Really? He's a little bit young for that role.
Yeah, I saw a preview that Cusack's going to be playing Edgar Allan Poe in The Raven coming up. He looks like Edgar Allan Poe. Huh. What do you think of that? How ironic. Jane Fonda, Miss Hanoi Jane,
I wonder how
playing Nancy Reagan. I wonder if Nancy Reagan will give her an interview.
You know, somebody in Hollywood must really think that's going to sell.
Yeah.
I mean, think about all the actresses in Hollywood.
And Whitney Houston's room is out of circulation, room 434. Removed after a flood of calls to book the room by fans. Now, why? If everybody wants to stay there, why would you take it out of circulation?
Now wait a minute. That's where she drowned in the
Yep,
the room. Okay.
434.
I wonder how much you could get for that room.
I don't know. Probably a lot if it's a high demand.
No,
you know
no.
they take it out of circulation. Let me see. Brad Pitt decides he wants to stay there. I'm willing to give you $50,000 to spend the night there. Okay, here's the key.
Now, heaven forbid that Whitney Houston were to die in, say, I don't know, the White House.
Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid.
You imagine how much the Obama administration could make by renting out that room?
A lot.
There's your $1 billion right there.
A lot.
And they would.
When we come back, we'll have a little local news. We're going to cover sports. We're going to cover Obamacare, of course, and everything else going in the world, like that little conversation Obama had with Medved, the Russian. Off air. But it was on air on Real Talk 1160.
Make sure you listen up for Bill O'Reilly's Talking Points coming up at 7:28 this morning here on Real Talk 1160. And now, back to the Bulldog.
Eric Dieters, the Bulldog on Real Talk 1160. How about Dick Cheney having a heart transplant at 71 and some political pundits questioning whether he's a little too old to get that heart transplant? Man, that's harsh. There were many that didn't think he had a heart. They thought there was just a big rock in there.
But the Wizard of Oz was able to find a heart for the Tin Man.
You know, something that I put in legal, but it really belonged in pop culture is Bobby Brown got a DUI. And I think the reason why Bobby got his DUI is he's sitting around thinking to himself, oh, God, you mean to tell me Whitney gave the $20 million to Bobby Christina and she don't even want nothing to do with me? Ah, God, I don't got nothing. I ain't got Whitney. I ain't got Bobby Christina. I ain't got a career. I'm going to go get drunk.
And no money.
No money. Bobby Brown. A man who beats up a woman needs his ass kicked.
Did he beat her up?
You know what I would love? This would be my dream scenario. That I'm out somewhere and I see a man slapping around a woman. And you could just intervene and just beat the hell out of a guy legitimately.
Well, you know, I'd rather have other reasons to go and just, you know, start beating a guy up. But
isn't that terrible, though?
It's a good enough reason.
Come on, man. Why does a man ever... You know what? My wife has hit me before. And you know what? When they hit you, they throw stuff at you. You just got to take it.
Yeah, you block.
That's all you can do is block and you let them throw.
That's all
I
you
made
can
fun
do.
of her. She threw a phone at me one time, and I made fun of her throwing motion with her phone. She kind of threw kind of like a girl.
Don't do that when she's mad.
No, you do it after the fact. All right, let's get sports out of the way.
All right.
We got to just get it out of the way. Bob Baffert is a great horse trainer, suffered a heart attack in Dubai, and he had emergency surgery, and apparently he's going to be okay. The Rangers beat the Reds 12-2. The Celtics beat the Bobcats 102-95, and the Pacers beat the Heat. What the hell's the Heat doing? Losing to Indiana. Mike Brown weighed in on the New Orleans Saints punishment. Thought it was a good thing. Tebow had his first New York press conference. New Orleans Saints Sean Payton's asked Bill Parcells to coach the Saints next year. Wow. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? I think it'd be kind of awesome. You got the feel-good song ready?
Yeah, we can do that.
We'll do the feel-good song after I do the Jack Wagons. Jack Wagons, Newt Gingrich, for charging $50 for a photo. Are you kidding me? Who wants a photo of him? The new Black Panther Party. They want to capture Trayvon Shooter with a bounty. Mitt Romney played his best Nancy Pelosi. If I tell you what I'll do, I'll lose. Madonna glamorized ecstasy while performing over the weekend. And, of course, Obama, he tells Moscow, I'll have more flexibility.
What do you mean she glamorized?
Ecstasy. Yeah, she was basically talking about how wonderful ecstasy was.
Oh, man.
Oracles today. This guy's an oracle. C.L. Bryant, former Garland, Texas NAACP chapter president, says Sharpton and Jackson are exploiting the death of Trayvon Martin to racially divide this country. Yeah, I'd say. Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, they just redid Bogarts. And it was on a Valentine's Day many years ago that I took a date to Bogarts to see this little-known band who basically had one good song. But this song rocks. It's kind of like, hey, can you keep playing that song over and over again? This is the Romantics. It's what I like about you. Great song. Uh-huh. I was asked to be their lead singer when he was sick. Yeah, baby. This is the drummer singing, by the way.
I used to have hair like that. A lot of it, I mean. A long time ago.
Look at those 80 hairdos, man.
That was so cool, wasn't it?
I got to ask you a question, TC, because you were a rock and roll DJ.
Yeah.
How can a band like this have a great song and not have more than one great song?
Sometimes it's all they have in you.
Like, where's can't they redo the magic?
Well, you know what?
This song is top 100 songs for me.
You know, I tell you honestly, writing a great song and getting a great song produced is the easy part. Getting it played on the radio is the hard part.
But I'm not kidding you. This would be in my top 100 songs of all time. I love it. Wow!
But there were a ton of one-hit wonders in the 80s that had that one great song, you know.
I got in trouble for this date, too, by the way.
Why's that?
My wife and my future wife and I broke off our engagement, so I snuck out on a date.
Ah, well. That's all right then.
I got in trouble over the Romantics. Why do I tell the world these things? Play that harmonica, baby. I love the harmonica.
You're listening to MTV, 24-hour music television. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was my goal, to be a VJ.
Man, when MTV came out, I was over at my cousin Josh's house, and I would watch that all night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was a farm boy. I was like, man, this is cool.
Just to see what the bands looked like.
What's
now,
that guy
from the
feel-good
song? We should let people listen.
Yes,
get the hook there.
We should. It's what I like. Hey! God, that's a great song.
Yeah, it is.
I ain't kidding. That's my top 100 songs. They're Romantics. You know, that's the whole idea of the feel-good songs. I like coming up with songs that, like I got a compliment from Trisha Mackey's husband, Chris Mackey, who says, man, I didn't know anybody knew the Kings, Switching to Glide.
Yeah.
He says, man, that's a great song. I says, I know.
He listens to us?
He listens to us,
really?
Man.
Chris, hey, how you doing?
I tell you right now, we have lots of fans. I got a lot of emails yesterday.
He's an attorney, isn't he?
Yeah, trademark lawyer. I got a lot of great emails and text messages yesterday about my wedding story. It was a hit, I think.
Yeah.
In health news, guess what, folks? This is a true story. Chocolate and sweets can actually reduce your body mass index. Don't ask me. Man, it can come up with some crazy study. How is that possible? How can sweets help that?
Doesn't seem to work for Oprah.
Apparently, it's called chocolate. Chocolate. Chocolate's good for you. I'm a chocoholic, baby.
Yeah.
On Science News, have you checked out the moon these days after the in the night sky? There's a Venus and Jupiter are showing up really close to the moon.
Really?
They look like stars.
They hang it out together?
Get this. The Venus is only 83 million miles away, and Jupiter is only 500 million miles away. Earth is 93 million miles from the sun, and the Earth moves. Get this, TC. You didn't know I was an astronomer, did you?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I was going to become an astronomy major before I selected history. 66,000 miles an hour is what the Earth right now is flying through space.
Wow.
66,000 miles an hour, and we can't even feel it.
It's amazing.
Except...
Thank you, Mr. Gravity.
That's right. Lonely Day. We come back, more Radio Superbity on Real Talk 1160. Eric Dieters, the Bulldog on Real Talk 1160. Let's dive in to a hot issue. Hot issue. The Black Panther Party is down in Sanford, Florida, and they're saying, you kill one of ours, we're going to kill one of yours.
Did they really?
Yes, they did, and they said, we're going to have a bounty. I think they offered $1 million. It was something crazy.
Oh, now see, that's
They're
wrong.
offering bounties, TC.
That's wrong. That is wrong.
And Barack Obama says we got to get to the bottom of it. Well, what is the bottom of it? Joe Oliver, who is a very black man, who's a good friend of George Zimmerman.
They need to play for the Reds?
Yeah, that's a good point. Joe's had a pigmentation change or something. But anyway, Joe says
shot for that
George Zimmerman is absolutely not a biased racist at all and was defending him. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the American jury, I cannot stand anal retentive lawyers. You know that? I'm the only lawyer that thinks the way a lawyer should in the best interest of his client in these situations. Look how George Zimmerman is being vilified by all these people in this country. He apparently got the hell beat out of him, a broken nose, a busted head. Apparently, all the physical evidence shows that he got the hell beat out of him, was on his back. Now, I still don't think Zimmerman should have shot the guy, and he shouldn't have followed him. But apparently, the police feel like it was justified self-defense. But here's the problem. The lawyers have told him he wants to speak, and his lawyer said, no, don't speak. There is absolutely nothing to be gained and everything to lose for George Zimmerman not to go in front of the TV cameras and publicly tell his side of the story. These lawyers are only looking out for themselves. Why? Because it's like, oh, let's drag this out. Let's make us more important than what we really are. If I was representing George Zimmerman, I'd call a press conference and I'd turn to George and say, George, tell him what the hell happened. Go ahead, George, tell him what the hell happened. And I'll bet you $100,000 that at the conclusion of that press conference, the world might look at George Zimmerman a little bit different. They may not agree that he should have shot him, but they're not going to think that he is what he apparently... come on. George could sit there and say, hey, listen, man, I'm an Hispanic guy. I'm XYZ. I'm not racist. I got black friends. He can tell his life story. He can tell him what happened. But no, the lawyers tell him, don't talk.
You're right. And if you were to talk now, look how things are escalating. All over the country now you have demonstrators, which I think you wouldn't have if the guy would just go out and, like you said.
I'll give you a great example. Nicole Howe, that school teacher I represented, who was innocent, was told by her lawyer, don't talk. If you went online, you would have think that she was guilty as hell. And guess what? By the time she got finished doing all those national interviews, the online had completely changed. People said, well, she's obviously innocent.
Right.
And you know why that's important? And this is why George should be talking. It's a chance to communicate to people that influence a jury trial. Are you kidding me? If you don't think for a minute that public opinion matters before you select a jury, if it gets that far, or what's online doesn't matter, because guess what, folks? Jurors aren't supposed to look at what's online. Ha, ha, ha.
And they never do, right?
And they never do. Think about that. Juror number one goes home in the privacy of his home at about midnight. The wife and kids are asleep, and he's got his laptop watching ESPN, and he goes, I'm going to check it out. Because guess what? The courts don't go check his computer to see if he checked it out. Right. So juror number one can look at everything there is online and say, oh, my God. And I'm telling you, you are a damn fool not to wage that war on that internet. And George Zimmerman, by speaking out, can do that for himself. Ladies and gentlemen, again, if you don't have me for your lawyer, you're stupid.
Now, let's say that George Zimmerman could say something and everyone would say, oh, well, if that's what happened, then the guy is innocent. Now, and if he's innocent, like you said, no reason for him not to come out and say, here's what happened. But let's say something that he could, let's say, incriminate himself.
Then you don't come out and speak.
You think maybe that's why his lawyers are saying no?
No. I've seen this too many times.
Really?
Lawyers don't know how to deal with the press or the media. I mean, they're just terrible. There was another one recently that I saw where they were allowed to speak, and I'm thinking, good job. Oh, the other thing is about the lawyers. The lawyer goes on the national talk show and they speak. See, it's kind of like this is a true story. I can't tell you how many times. Here's a great example. The Bengal cheerleader on Dirty.com, okay? I get a call from Anderson Cooper. I get a call from Dr. Phil. I get these phone calls from people, and they say, well, we're happy to fly you and your client. And this is what I say to every one of them. Man, you don't want me. You want her. I don't need to go to New York. I've done that song and dance before. Just go ahead and use her. In other words, they accommodate the lawyer because they know the lawyer's going to tell the client.
Right.
But a lot of these lawyers, they're smitten by the national limelight. I can tell you right now, once you've done national talk interviews, it's like big deal.
Well, they want that Johnny Cochran seat.
And here's the other thing is you get flown to New York for a 5-minute freaking interview. It's like, wow. I mean, you have to go up there the night before, you stay in a hotel, they pick you up in a limo, then they take you to the set, and for 5 minutes, you just went to New York. And I'm like, you know what, I got too much to do.
Yeah, but, free meals in there, it's worth it.
Yeah. But anyway. Oh, and the other thing about this, you see this picture of Trayvon Martin. And by the way, he should not have been shot and he should not have been killed. I'm on the side of that. However, Trayvon Martin doesn't necessarily is a saint because this witness, and I've seen the interview, he wouldn't show his face, but a television camera got to the guy, and he told him what he saw, which was Trayvon Martin beating the hell out of this guy.
Yeah.
And, of course, I think we're on the same page that we think what happened was is Trayvon Martin says, what the hell are you doing following me?
Right.
and decided to just beat the hell out of him. But Trayvon Martin was suspended from school for having some residue of marijuana in a backpack. Now, let me tell you something. Having marijuana is like, well, that doesn't make him a crook or anything like that. And he has no juvenile record. But stating the obvious, Trayvon Martin probably isn't a complete saint. But he still did not deserve to be shot to death. See, I say the response should be consistent with what the hell you're going. Now, I guess you could be beaten to death. Maybe Trayvon Martin would have just beat him until he died. So maybe Zimmerman did have to shoot him. But generally, your basic ass whooping doesn't require a gun. We'll see what Prankster think. Prankster, say something witty or wise for me.
Yes, aren't you an attorney in Florida?
Yes, I am an attorney in Florida.
Did you ever think that maybe George Zimmerman might be contacting you?
George Zimmerman was smart, Prankster. He'd call the Bulldog.
Would you be afraid to represent him?
Hell no, I wouldn't be afraid to represent him. I'd represent him in a heartbeat. And the first thing I would do is call a press conference and say, George, tell your side of the story.
I hate to say it, but that Trayvon Martin kid
yes,
is beginning to sound like he wanted to be a thug, and he just ran into another thug,
You know what? You're right. How about this, Prankster? The New York Times, this cracks me up. I mean, you can look at a picture of Zimmerman, and the first thing that I thought was Hispanic. The New York Times doesn't call him Hispanic. They call him a white Hispanic. So therefore, from now on, Bulldog Nation is going to refer to our president as a white black man.
He looked...
Barack Obama is a white African-American.
Zimmerman looked Mexican to me. I mean, I'm not...
yeah, he does. He looks Mexican.
I'm not as stupid and as ignorant human being as some people. Some people think that he's white, and they're really stupid, ignorant human beings. I mean, I look at a person as a good human being. It doesn't matter what color their skin is,
Well, it's like
but I'm not stupid enough to be a racist to say the guy was white,
Well, Prankster, what Barack Obama said was, because it could have been my son, what Newt Gingrich took exception to that is kind of like, hey, whether he was black, white, brown, a 17-year-old kid didn't deserve to get shot.
Right,
his color's got nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
You know what? I don't care what color Trayvon Martin was. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing. I think George Zimmerman might have a defense. George Zimmerman ought to be telling his side of the story. I still don't think George Zimmerman should have shot the kid.
Well, something else. The first time I heard the guy's name, I hadn't seen a picture of him, and Zimmerman, I didn't think he was Hispanic when I heard the name. That just didn't seem.
No, it doesn't sound very Hispanic, does it?
I saw pictures like, oh, really?
But isn't it funny? The New York Times. Have you ever heard TC? In all your, how old are you?
8.
All right,
48.
We're the same age,
Yeah.
TC. Have you ever heard anybody ever called a white Hispanic?
No, and never heard that one before. However, there are a lot of times when the news media is guilty of using race in a story, and it kind of sways the story just by using it, although it may not have anything to do with the story itself. And I think this is the case. Like you said, 17-year-old kid got shot. A kid will never be able to vote. That's all that is what's important.
Sad.
You know,
Barack Obama is a white African American.
Okay, yeah, okay.
When we come back, more Radio Suburbity on Real Talk 1160.
Coming up this Wednesday, it's UC Bearcat Baseball with Steve Jarnicki calling the game. They'll take on Dayton. They'll be in Dayton. 12:30 pregame, first pitch at 1 o'clock. Catch all the action right here on Real Talk 1160. And now, back to the Bulldog.
Speaking of the Bearcats, UC is raising their tuition 3.5%. Josh Hutcherson, the star of Hunger Games, is going to throw out the ceremonial first pitch for the Reds-Marlins opening night at 7:10 p.m. Saturday, April 7th. American Idol contestant Eben will be in the Reds opening night lineup too. Post-game fireworks and have all the good fun. Speaking of the Trayvon Martin matter, hundreds of people gathered downtown Monday evening in front of the Hamilton County Library and marched to Fountain Square to protest the shooting death of Florida teen Trayvon Martin. It's called Occupy the Hood Rally. Man, oh, man. And oh, by the way, folks, I just couldn't believe it. Your mayor, Mark Mallory, showing up at a press conference in a hoodie. Good golly. I mean, I got to ask you, okay, all you gangbangers out there, how many of you see Mark Mallory as one of your own?
Now, see, you know why they're wearing the hoodies.
I know why they're wearing the hoodies.
Okay.
It's the Geraldo comment, but come on, man.
Yeah.
Does Mark Mallory, come on.
Well, you know, I'd rather see him doing that than wasting his time with the streetcar.
Well, okay.
You know, I mean, honestly.
But come on, Mark Mallory. Oh, God.
You know, here's the scary thing. How many kids, let's say, for example, my daughter at age 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 was just the biggest UC women's Lady Bearcat fan there was, okay? She wore a UC hoodie all the time. I mean, till a thing fell apart. Now, my daughter's not a gangbanger. She's just a kid who likes the Lady Bearcats.
Yeah, everybody wears hoodies.
You know, I mean, that's all.
Geraldo's a jackwagon, though.
Well,
I mean, come on.
You know,
Geraldo, he gets so, it's almost like he gets misplaced emotionally connected to things.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking to myself, Geraldo, why are you so worked up about that?
But you know what? I guess the reason that half the time the guy screws up is the reason that we watch him all the time, just to see if he's going to ever get it right.
The famous Al Capone, the vault. God.
Why
empty.
Did they just push him in?
Empty. God. That's a classic, isn't it?
Oh,
do you have a Green Water commercial for us?
Well, actually, we do have a Green Water. Now, earlier you talked about Tim Tebow becoming a Jet. And
Tebow. By the way, I say this. The NFL and the Broncos need to buy back the number 15. All these Bronco fans spend all that money on a jersey that's outdated now.
Yeah, it's like having an Ocho Cinco jersey, I guess.
Yeah.
They're 75% off at...
I apologize for the interruption. What do you got for us?
Well, yeah, just asking you, first of all, the Jets, what are their colors?
Green and white.
Yeah, well.
Smart. Good job, marketing director.
Okay, Green Water and Tebow. First of all, we have a live interview with Tim Tebow. First of all, I want to know how you feel about being a Jet.
So excited about being a Jet.
And how do you feel about endorsing Green Water?
And I'm very, very excited about it. I was really excited. I'm excited.
The Green Water.
I was excited about
mention
it.
the water.
That would be exciting for me.
Tim.
So I'm excited to be a Jet.
I know you're excited about endorsing Green Water. Mention the water.
Exciting thing.
Say it's at Queen Cake.
And I'm excited about the opportunity. He was excited.
Tim.
And he was excited about working with me.
I think Tim's excited.
I'm excited about working. Excited about that.
You want to be
I'm excited
Tim,
about that.
mention the water.
I'm excited about him, and I'm excited.
Tim, mention the water. Please mention the water.
I'm excited about the opportunity.
At King
I'm excited about my future. You know how exciting it is. I'm excited to be a Jet.
You like the Jets in the water.
Just excited that I'm here in power.
Yeah, the energy drink. That's right.
It would have been exciting.
All right, thanks, Tim. Thanks for stopping by, Tim. Green Water, available at Queen Cake.
Oh, God. That's funny. Good old Tebow. You know what? If Green Water, if we could work at a crucifix I'm not trying to be sacrilegious, but if we could fix the crucifix or something into our green water logo, Tebow might be able to support us.
You know? Well, see, there's a problem with that.
Wait. Missionary work. Let's support missionary work.
Oh, there you
Bingo.
go. He could go around selling bottles of green water.
By the way, folks, the Pope, if you're a good Catholic, the Pope is only 90 miles away from Miami down in Cuba, or Key West anyway, 90 miles from Key West. The Pope shows up, Benedict the 16th. Now, you know what? If I was ever like the first American Pope, I think John Dolan from New York might have a chance. But anyway, Benedict the 16th, why not you be like Pope T.C. Eric the First? Anyway, he goes to Cuba. Now,
How about Pope Diddy?
And he dogged Cuba the day before he goes down there. Now, this is a communist country, and he goes to Cuba, and he feels for the Cuban people. But he doesn't like communism, but he doesn't like capitalism. I guess the Pope's socialist. But anyway, the Pope goes to Cuba, and, God, can you imagine how difficult it is to host the Pope? It's like, you don't want to say anything to offend the Pope. You don't want to argue with the Pope, but the Pope chastises you. You kind of got to take it. You can't disagree with the Pope. I love the story, and I forget which state it was. But the Pope, I think it was Kansas. I think it was Missouri. But because he went to St. Louis. The Pope went to St. Louis. This is John Paul II. He goes to Missouri and St. Louis, and he leans over, and he tells the governor that the governor should spare the life of somebody that was going to be executed. And the governor spared the guy's life, and the governor publicly said, when the Pope leans over and asks you or requests that, it's hard to say no.
Well, I guess he is the godfather of fathers, isn't he?
I mean, if the Pope called in right now and said, Bulldog, can you please stop talking about Barack Obama? I'd probably have to stop talking about Barack Obama, at least till the Pope got back to Rome.
We can still listen on their, radio loyalty app.
The radio loyalty app. But I'm telling you right now, the Pope's in Cuba. Also in world news.
Can you imagine the dictator going into the Pope giving confession? Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been, 40, 50 years.
I have starved the Cuban people.
And the Pope has to forgive him, right? Say about 10,000 Hail Marys.
Is Fidel Castro Catholic? I didn't know. That's an interesting question.
I think Raul didn't Raul
go to my name is Raul.
So I'm going to guess that he probably is.
And how about Strauss-Kahn? Our former IMF guy.
He was set up.
You know what he's charged with now, or he's being investigated with now?
What's that?
This is too funny, folks. Aggravated pimping. Not pimping. Now listen, I know this about like a gun charge, like an aggravated assault. Aggravated assault always involves a weapon, knife, gun. That's aggravated. So what the hell's aggravated pimping? I mean, you got pimping, aggravated pimping. What the hell's aggravated pimping?
I don't know. You got me.
Maybe he needs to see the Pope for a confession.
I never understood that either because, sometimes you get a rash and it's aggravating.
Yes, an aggravating rash.
But that's not the same, is it?
Yeah, the man who hacked Scarlett Johansson and Mila Kunis's leaking several nude photos on the internet has pled guilty to 9 felonies. Christopher Cheney struck a plea agreement with prosecutors in which he agreed to plead guilty to 9 counts, including identity theft, wiretapping, and unauthorized access. Now, come on, guys. You're hacking into people's phones. Bad things are going to happen. By the way, did you see the picture of Scarlett Johansson?
No, I did not.
Oh, my.
Really?
It was taken by her phone in a mirror, and it showed her buttocks.
Oh.
Her buttocks was pleasant. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you right now, if you take a naked picture of yourself and send it by cell phone, you better make sure the person you're sending that to is trustworthy.
Don't do it. Just don't do it. Because think about it.
I have never taken a picture of my willy whacker and sent it to somebody on the phone. That's just stupid.
Except for that one time. But now, see, when you become a national talk show host, who knows? That might get out. You never know.
Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, enjoy this song, and we'll come back for Radio Superbity. And we're going to attack Obamacare in the Supreme Court on Real Talk 1160. Eric Dieters, the Bulldog, on Real Talk 1160. Did you hear about the scandal in Kuwait? There was a medal presentation for a shooter, some type of a competitive shooting expedition, and they played the Borat song instead of the country song. It was mislabeled.
Oops.
I can't wait to see that dictator. The previews of the dictator, he's running a race, like a 100-yard dash, and he's shooting the people that he's running against in the leg so he can win.
What the DJ meant to play was.
Yes, what we meant to play. Well, yesterday, folks, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments, and the bottom line and the issue that they were focused on was really narrow. We call it narrow in the law. And the court seemed to be united. In other words, the Republicans, the Democrats on the court, seemed to be united in determining that the first issue to be decided in favor of actually hearing the case. Yesterday, they heard arguments, and it's an old law about 1890-something, and it's an injunction law. And the issue for the court is whether or not they can even hear the case until a tax has actually been paid under that law. In other words, where they would have standing. And the court seemed pretty united based on their comments that they can. So it looks like that's going to get out of the way the first issue, which is, yes, they're going to decide this case. Because if they were to rule that it wasn't ripe, you're talking about 2015 before they could decide the case. And Obamacare would be in limbo for all of us till then.
So this is a penalty and not a tax.
Well, it's very interesting that you said that. On the first day of the arguments, the two justices, Alito and Kagan, and had a good time needling the Obama lawyer for simultaneously calling the fine that would be paid under the law both a penalty and a tax. U.S. Solicitor General David Verrilli used the phrase tax penalty multiple times to describe the individual mandate's backstop. He portrayed the fee as a penalty by design, but one that functions as a tax because it's collected through the tax code and IRS agents. Justice Alito said to Verrilli, General Verrilli, today you are arguing that the penalty is not a tax. Tomorrow you will be back arguing that it is a tax. The issue today that they're going to argue in the Supreme Court is the entire issue of the constitutionality of this Commerce Clause issue. Justin Kagan asked whether refusing to buy insurance would constitute breaking the law, to which Verrilli responded that if people pay the tax, then they are in compliance with the law. And then that's when Stephen Breyer said, why do you keep saying tax? It just proves how messed this thing up is. And, Verrilli's sitting up there arguing out of both sides of his mouth. And let me tell you something. An oral argument before a Supreme Court justice, you're not going to get away with anything.
Yeah.
Zippo. They're releasing the audio tapes of the oral arguments after they are held in the mornings, and they're pretty interesting. But, folks, let me just say this for you. I have walked out of these oral arguments, and as a lawyer, you do want to feel better about, some of the arguments, but these justices, they mess with you, and they ask questions and whatnot and make their comments. Is there anybody out there that thinks that the 4 Democrats aren't going to vote to uphold Obamacare? Of course they are. Is there any doubt that that's going to happen? Now, I don't know about the Republicans. I don't think that is where the Republicans fall on this. I do not think is as certain as that I can tell you right now that Breyer and Kagan and the other 2 Democrat judges, they are going to vote for this. I mean, there's just absolutely no question that they're going to. Kennedy will be the swing, but this will be a 5-4 decision, I would guess. Bill O'Reilly he had on a constitutional law professor of some sorts, and he asked her this question. I have to admit, it was a good question. Name one thing that the government requires you to buy. The federal government requires you to buy. She dodged the question. Couldn't answer it. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to require us to buy health insurance or pay a penalty and be a criminal. I tell you right now, TC, this is, when I think about all the provisions of this law, the 1099 provision, the criminalization of not having insurance, the requirement that an employer have insurance if you and supply it if you have over 50 employees. Just every part of this law is just, what a nightmare. And the law itself, 2,800 pages, the regulations, to enact this thing is going to be a nightmare.
There has to be an easier way to support people with pre-existing conditions than 2,800 pages. There just has to be.
You know what? Here is something. This is what I would do with health care.
What's that?
Honest to goodness. I would basically say, hey, the market's the market, and insurance companies want to make money, and people are going to have to purchase health insurance in that market. I would let insurance companies go across state lines. That's, insurance companies have at it, go wherever you want to go.
Uh-huh.
And here's, how you deal with the uninsured?
How's that?
The way you deal with the uninsured is you list, in my humble opinion. See, you can't ration health insurance. You can't ration health care to everybody, particularly those people that want to buy private health insurance. But I'm telling you right now, I think you basically say to all the hospitals out there, you are going to provide, because they do it anyway. Under the law, they have to already. You are going to have to provide emergency health care for anybody who is uninsured.
Okay.
And then you basically, for the other people that are uninsured, they just deal with it. See, people who don't have health insurance, they do the following. They either A, they don't go to the doctor.
Right.
B, they pay cash. C, they go to the emergency room. They deal with it. In other words, those people that are uninsured in this country, you just got to deal with it. You don't have health insurance. You got to deal with it.
Right. Or you don't get sick.
Or you don't get sick. Now, it's a bad thing. It's a horrible thing. But it's just a reality. If you can't afford health insurance, you can't. I don't get where somebody, Ted Kennedy and all the bleeding hearts decided it is a right to have health insurance. You've got to have health insurance. We have to insure all these uninsured. Why? Why is that? It's like, and where do you draw the line? Everybody must have a car. It's a right that you have a car. It's a right that you have a housing. It's a right that you have food. Are you kidding me?
I don't know about these all being rights. They're nice things to have. Make life more comfortable, make things a little easier.
But the Democrats are saying you should have a right in this country.
Now, the thing about, if you have over 50 employees and you have to provide health care, this, that, and the other, what's going to happen, you think, is a lot of companies are going to say, well, if I have 48 employees, I'm under the radar. I don't have to. That doesn't apply to me.
Right.
And that's two less people who are working.
It's going to be interesting. Let me see here. We have Roberts, appointed by Bush, Alito, who's very conservative, Scalia, very conservative, Clarence Thomas, very conservative, Kennedy's a swing vote. No question about Kennedy. Breyer is such a Democrat. Breyer's very liberal. I like Breyer, though.
Yeah.
He's an entertaining person. Breyer, let me see, Sotomayor, and Kagan, both appointed by Obama.
Right.
Very liberal. And then Ginsburg. Ginsburg is the other, also very much a Democrat.
Yeah.
So, you kind of think Kennedy's that swing vote, but I think this is one where, my God, ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, oh, God. Now, this is something that's really important, folks. Even if the Supreme Court rules that this is not unconstitutional and they're going to let it stand, it can still be repealed by the legislature. So if the Republicans can win the White House and the Senate, they can repeal it even if it's considered constitutional.
Ah, okay.
I mean, that's the people
that's
for
Plan B.
Plan B. That's Plan B. It's bankrupt. You know, the forms and Dr. Kurtzman, we've had him on here.
Right.
Our plastic surgeon, we've asked him about the paperwork and the bureaucracy that it takes. It's incredible what you have to go through.
Yeah.
This is just going to make it more forms, more pieces of paper. I like Ron Paul. What Ron Paul said, he was a doctor. He says, we just took care of patients. They paid their bills. Thank you very much. When we come back, I'm going to play the feel-good song for you again. The Bulldog on Real Talk 1160.
And remember the Huckabee Report coming up at 8:30 this morning right here on Real Talk 1160. And now back to the Bulldog.
This is Eric Dieters, the Bulldog on Real Talk 1160. I want to thank, how cool is this? The Ohio Justice Association, the Ohio Association for Justice, which is, I guess for a lack of a better word, is the plaintiff's bar of Ohio, asked me to serve on their board. Pretty interesting. I donated money out the Yin Yang for the comparative board in Kentucky. They've never even asked me to speak at a seminar. True story, TC. This is funny. I've tried more cases than any plaintiff's lawyer in the state of Kentucky the last 10 years. And the Kentucky Bar Association, the Northern Kentucky Bar Association, the Kentucky Justice Association, the Kentucky Bar Association has never asked me one time to speak at a seminar.
Really?
Or an event.
I wonder why.
Ha. Jealous.
Yeah.
Scared. I would be the most entertaining speaker they ever had. Now, how funny is that the Ohio Justice Association, they want me to be on their board.
See, I think in Kentucky.
And by the way, that is much a bigger deal. Ohio is a much bigger state in Kentucky, and it's why when I run for governor, I'm going to move to Ohio and run for governor of Ohio, not Kentucky.
Goodbye, Mr. Kasich.
Bye-bye. I could beat Kasich.
See, in Kentucky, they're still upset about that jail thing. I think that's what it is. You upset the apple cart with that one.
I have upset the establishment in Northern Kentucky. First of all, I made all the Democratic establishment mad when I was a Republican, and then I made the Republican establishment mad. So I've made them all mad.
Yeah. You've got some friends out there. Matt, you got a friend on the phone right now.
Steve is my favorite Croatian. Steve, you're on Real Talk 1160. How the hell are you, buddy?
I am Daddy. Mr. Eric, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. You always have something witty or wise to say. Let us have it.
Okay, I want to know if Spike Lee, for posting Zimmerman's home address, if Mr. Zimmerman is exonerated, will he buy a new home for this person because this guy is fearing for his life? And two, will the Reverend Jackson have the balls to apologize, or will he be a sissy like he was during the Duke lacrosse players?
Nope.
Well, you know what?
They will be sissies. There will be sissies. They're hypocrites. It cracks me up that they get all worked up and they're going to have egg on their face when it comes out that maybe Zimmerman did this in self-defense.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm telling you, it's just it's relegating their community into, how can I put this? Almost like a clown-like atmosphere. It's like grow up, be men, get the facts first before you make a decision, and put $10,000 on this guy's head by the Black Panthers, who are, of course, sissies themselves.
Well, Black Panthers, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, they're like caricatures, man. I mean, they have Zippo credibility when it comes to these issues. I mean, Zippo credibility.
Eric, I love your show. Keep up the good work.
All right, thanks, Steve. Steve's a wise man.
Did he say that Spike Lee put that guy's address
publicly? Yeah.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was such a good idea.
It's not a good idea.
Got another caller if you want
Glenn from Mason. Glenn, say something witty and wise for me.
Hey, I want to ask that last caller, if it comes out that Zimmerman actually killed a guy that he was pursuing, that he said he was intimidated by, and really wasn't part of the stand your ground law, will that guy come back and apologize?
Well, I don't know if Steve will apologize, but I
well, why wouldn't he? Because he's asking for other people to do it. What are you saying? Steve isn't man enough to come and say, call the Bulldog Show and say, you know what, Eric, I was wrong. Glenn, I apologize. You telling me that guy's not man enough to do that, Eric?
Well, first of all, the stand the ground law doesn't apply in this case
well, that's
at all.
That's what they're using. That's what his defense is using.
Doesn't apply. It's simply, I think the police, well, that's what the media is using.
No, that's what his defense is using. That's what his defense attorney on TV last night.
The police are just simply considering the defense. Now, my personal opinion, Glenn, is if somebody's beating the shit out of you, let's beat that. Dump. You dump that? Did you dump that, TC? Did you get that dump? TC dumped that. If you're beating the heck out of you, you do not need to shoot them.
Well, no. Let me ask you, Eric.
In other words, shooting him to death is not the right response to him beating the heck out of you.
Well, let me ask you, Eric. If you were intimidated by somebody and you feel threatened, why do you follow him?
Well, absolutely. It was dumb. He's calling 911, and they're saying, don't follow him. Don't follow him. You know, Zimmerman, and I think what probably happened is Martin says, what the heck is your problem?
Exactly.
And he said something back, and the next thing there's an altercation. I want to stress this to you, Glenn. Here's my position on this.
Right.
Zimmerman was wrong. The kid didn't deserve to get shot. But this should not be a national freaking issue for the black community of white on black crime.
Well, actually, it's not about white on black crime. It's about justice.
Then why does Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton got to get involved? Why aren't they involved in Chicago of the 41 shootings in 3 days in Southside Chicago?
What the hell does that have to do with anything? That's like saying,
what do you mean? What does it have to do with anything? It has to do with the little 6-year-old girl getting shot because she's caught in crossfire. Why isn't Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson in Southside Chicago in the black community saying, enough is enough, let's do something? You know? That's what it's about, Glenn. See, how come some people can't understand the nuances of this? In other words, I can agree that Zimmerman shouldn't have followed the guy. 911 told him not to follow the guy. I don't think Zimmerman should have shot Trayvon Martin. I think that if he's going to argue self-defense, we'll let that play out in the justice. But you got the Black Panthers, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. You know, Panthers wanting a bounty on the guy's head. Are you kidding me? And what it is, you can slice it and dice it, Glenn, any way you want it. This is about the black, quote-unquote, leadership wanting to stir it up. And Obama participated in that too. Wanting to stir up racial strife because it's a political season. And I guess some way they're going to say, well, the black community needs to get out and vote for Barack Obama because Zimmerman shot Martin. I don't get the correlation. But nobody's going to tell me that that's not what this is all about. Well, this should not be a national race issue. It is a young man who shouldn't have gotten shot by Zimmerman. He shouldn't have been followed by Zimmerman.
You may have a point there, but honestly, does Barack Obama have a better campaign speech going right now?
Yes.
I mean, what is it?
I'm not saying that it's not effective politics.
You know, I mean, it might be, and I'm not saying what you're saying is it's not like it's right, but hey,
right.
That might work.
And see, he needs to get his base all revved up.
Yeah.
So, but you know what's going to happen though? This is going to die down quick.
You think?
I think when the facts come out, and I mean, right or wrong. Let me give you an example. Even though he shouldn't have been following him, once that fight starts. And Trayvon Martin is beating the heck out of him, even though maybe his life wasn't in danger, they're not going to convict him for shooting him. A jury's not going to convict Zimmerman for shooting him. Isn't going to happen, TC.
You don't think so, really?
He'll never be convicted for shooting him.
Do you think involuntary manslaughter? Nothing?
Nope.
Nothing at all, huh?
Nope. If that witness is true, that Trayvon Martin is on top of Zimmerman, beating the heck out of him, and Zimmerman shoots him, I'll bet you no conviction.
Now, wouldn't a reasonable man say, if you had not followed him,
yes,
this would not have happened?
But see, that conduct to follow him, whether that's right or wrong, has nothing to do with the shooting. In other words, you can't say, well, we're not going to convict you for this shooting because we're going to convict you for the shooting because you shouldn't have been there in the first place. That's not an element of the crime. Being stupid and following somebody isn't the element of the crime of murder.
So then this is just an unfortunate incident.
Sad.
That's all this is going to be. Man, you're going to see worse riots than Rodney King.
Well, there may not be when rational people say, hey, man, this isn't a race issue.
Good luck finding rational people.
Good point. On Real Talk 1160. Eric Dieters, the Bulldog, on Real Talk 1160. According to a New York Times CBS News poll, 69% of Americans believe the United States should not be in Afghanistan. 59% say the war is not a success. And 55% don't know why the troops are still there. Newt Gingrich has no reporters following him anymore. They call that embedded. The reporters have said, see you, Newt. And big old fat Georgia Watermelon, the big fat Georgia Watermelon refuses to get out of the race. Newt. Man, I went from liking the guy to now I despise him. He's outworn his welcome. Train to nowhere. How about this story? A $4.9 billion government guaranteed loan is in the works to a Harry Reid supporter for a train from Victorville, California to Vegas. Victorville is in the middle of nowhere. If you're in L.A., you're going to drive 100 miles to get to Victorville, to get on the train, to take it to Vegas. Incredible. $4.9 billion.
And all we get is
Harry
a streetcar.
Reid, baby.
And all we get is a streetcar.
Yeah, if they can spend $4.9 billion on that, I say spend $150 million on a streetcar.
Exactly, and name it Greenwater.
Oh, gosh, you can't make this stuff up. All right, Barack Obama was caught on camera on Monday assuring the outgoing Russian president, Medvedev, that he will have more flexibility to deal with contentious issues like missile defense after the U.S. presidential election. He leaned over and said, particularly with missile defense, this is my last election. After my election, I have more flexibility. Ladies and gentlemen of the American jury, as Mike Huckabee in his report, what he's saying there is that once he's reelected, that Barack Obama has much more flexibility to basically weaken our national defense, our national security. He's got flexibility. It's incredible. And there's a lot of people that are saying, hey, we got to be careful about reelecting this guy. Just think what he'll do if he has another term and he's got a Democratic Senate. But you see, he's got executive power, so his departments, they're just ignoring the law. They're just enacting regulation after regulation after regulation, doing whatever the hell they want.
And he's assuming he'll be reelected.
Yeah. God, this president scares me, folks. Oh, God, how can people support this guy? How? And you know what? It's so blind. I have a good friend. I have lots of liberal friends, and it's amazing. They just support him. It's not rational. It's just they do because he's a Democrat, and they do. I mean, they don't rational. They don't think rationally. They don't weigh the evidence. It's just, hey, he's Barack Obama. He's the president. He's a Democrat. I support him.
Some people are always going to vote along party lines.
But it's so stupid.
I mean, straight ticket all the way. That's just the way people are.
Dwayne in Wingo, Kentucky. You're on Real Talk 1160. Say something witty or wise for me.
Okay, well, Bulldog, I think we've discovered the secret to immortality. Look how long Dr. Kellogg lived on cornflakes and enemas. Imagine how long we're going to live when we give ourselves cornflake enemas.
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm going to start eating cornflakes for all my meals and getting my... as far as the daily enema goes, Dwayne, I think what counts is who gives you the enema. Like, I don't want to give it to myself. So I think it makes, is it Nurse a Nurse Hathaway, or is it, somebody? It depends on
Feel Good.
Nurse Feel. It depends on who's delivering the enema.
And I have one more wise thing to say. I have a word for Sharpton and for Glenn from Mason.
Jack Wagon.
Tawana Bradley. Those are my words for those guys. Remember her? The woman that said she was raped by white people and put racist comments all over her body. And Sharpton, was all up in arms about it. And then
I forgot about her. You're right. Yeah, Sharpton led the charge.
Yep. So for those two, I have that to say, because until the truth comes out, everybody should just keep their mouth shut about that. But I wanted to have a little question for you. I know you are pro-Israel, but I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm a Zionist, as Ron Paul calls us.
Well, I like Ron Paul, that. But here's my opinion. If we had credible proof that Iran was about to get nuclear weapons, should we do a preemptive strike, in your opinion?
Yes.
Well, why should we? Why shouldn't Israel? They have nukes too.
Well, I don't want Israel or the United States to do a nuclear strike on them, Dwayne. I would just like there to be a few Daisy Buster bombs to mess up their nuclear program, make sure that they do not have a nuclear bomb. I tell you right now, Iran, or however you want to say it, if they have a nuclear bomb, they will use the threat of that to wreak havoc in the Middle East. And I don't think there's any question they'd be willing to use it. I mean, these are rational people. They're nut jobs. Is there any doubt in your mind, Dwayne, that if they think they can deliver a nuclear bomb and wipe out, it's only going to take one nuclear bomb, and wipe out Israel, that they wouldn't use it? Is there any question in your mind that Iran would use a nuclear bomb to wipe out Israel if they develop it and they can use it? The answer is yes, is it not?
Actually, I have a little bit of doubt, simply because the United States could simply tell them, you bomb Israel, we'll vaporize your whole country, period. Then what they just lost?
Well, here's what they're going to do. They're going to say, oh, yeah, because we're going to have China and Russia, and then there'll be a third war, although I don't think China and Russia would intervene in a world war if we blew up Iran.
No, because China's even helped us get North Korea in line a few times.
Well, that's a good rhetorical question, Dwayne, but I say strike first.
I have a question, though. Given the super intelligence that we got on weapons of mass destruction with Saddam Hussein, how can we know for sure what's really going on in Iran?
That's a good question. I want to tell you an anecdotal story which is relevant to the issue of Iran and Israel.
All right.
And just like Jesus taught in parables and Abraham Lincoln taught in parables, the bulldog likes to teach in parables. I took karate from William Dimitrick, who was my sensei, down in the Martin Street Karate School, the Yoshikan Karate School. And I learned lots of wisdom, simple wisdom from old sensei. And he once said in class, whoever gets there first with the most wins. If you get there first and you don't have much, you'll still lose. If you get there last, but you still have more, you'll win. For example, he always taught us that if you are facing a situation mano to mano, and you can look in a guy's eyes, and you can tell that that man is going to punch you or cause you harm, you might as well hit him first. There's no use waiting around to let a guy get the drop on you. And I can tell you this right now. I've been in those situations. It's been a long time, but back when my early 20s, I was in those situations. And I remember taking a look at somebody, sizing up the situation, and that split-second thought process decided, I'm going to hit this guy before he hits me. So with that theory that whoever gets there first with the most wins, and if you know that there's going to be an attack, you're a darn fool not to do a preemptive strike. There is absolutely no logical, rational reason why Israel or the United States or whoever should not wipe out the nuclear capability of Iran. And in fact, we have been foolish, in my humble opinion, that we didn't do it earlier or somebody didn't do it earlier because they've been able to reinforce. Apparently, they've gone down even deeper than a Daisy bunker buster can get them. I love the fact that Israel apparently, we kind of like planted some worms in their nuclear system and their computer system was all messed up and they had to revamp that. But Dwayne, in my opinion, Dwayne is incorrect. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind, none, that Iran will drop a bomb on Israel if they get it. I mean, I'm just very confident they're going to do it. So waiting around does no good. Economic news. The average price of gasoline, $3.91, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. We had a Dieters Company board meeting. We are a BP and Shell retailer, and it was interesting at the board meeting yesterday to hear about the gas prices and how they affect the consumer as far as what our markup is. Guess what, folks? The retailers aren't making any more money with the price going up. Not happen. Dow Jones was up 160 points. The 13,241. We come back, more Radio Superbity on Real Talk 1160.
And listen for Laura Ingraham coming up at 9 o'clock, 9 to noon today on Real Talk 1160. And now, back to the Bulldog.
This is Eric Dieters, the Bulldog, on Real Talk 1160. Lots of fan mail yesterday. Lots of fan mail. Fan emails. You heard me yesterday explain that why I thought the oral argument in the Supreme Court was silly. And if you recall, one of the reasons why I said it was silly is because the justices already know what their positions are. The justices have already read these big old thick briefs. Their law clerks have already read their briefs. And let me just give you an example what a huge waste of time yesterday was. It was clear from the questions and the comments from the court that the Democrats and the Republicans on the Supreme Court all agree that they can hear this case. And that old law that would prohibit them hearing the case until a tax was actually paid or a penalty was actually paid, they could not hear the case. Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, they knew that before those oral arguments even started. So why do they play the game, the charade of bringing in all the lawyers, recording it, releasing it to the public, when they already know? Oral argument is one of the most outdated, silly things in the legal system. Oral argument before a court of appeals, oral argument before, the courts can read the briefs and say, that's what I usually do. You go to the court on these things, you say, Your Honor, we've said everything we have in our briefs. And in cool, calm reflection in their chambers, they can read both sides and decide what they're going to do. Oral argument is a big, big, big waste of time. And to prove it, did you hear a Chief Justice? Did you hear one of the justices yesterday say, "Ooh, I never thought about that. That's going to make me change my mind." And guess what? Clarence Thomas, he never speaks. I think the entire time he's on the bench, they claim that he's either never or like only one or two times opened his mouth. He's never said anything. Scalia likes to show off that he's a witty and smart. He's a big show-off. That's all he is. Breyer likes to be funny. Alito is a very serious person.
You look like you need to take a drink. I was just thinking, you get to the Supreme Court, it's like tenure on steroids.
Yes.
So you can do what you want.
You're absolutely.
Hey, what are they going to do?
And one of those things, for example, is, and this is just an example of it, is the fact that they don't have any rules governing them relative to conflicts of interest and things like that. In other words, if they have got a huge ethical issue, like Kagan obviously does, TC, she was part of the team arguing for this law.
Right.
And now she's going to decide it, and guess what? She's a Supreme Court judge. There's no special panel to tell a Supreme Court judge, you've got to recuse yourself. And Chief Justice Roberts comes to her defense. It is beyond incredible. In other legal news, we have some interesting things to report. A Connecticut woman has filed a lawsuit against Connecticut Governor Daniel Malloy over the alleged part he played in the plaintiff being attacked by a chimpanzee in 2009.
What?
The lawsuit claims that while Malloy was mayor of Stamford, he was aware that the animal was living in one of the neighborhoods, and that if it had gotten loose before and he did nothing to protect the residents. Come on.
Chimpanzee?
Jeez, old Pete.
I don't know. Chimpanzees are cute, cuddly. Not like that orangutan, Clyde. Remember him?
Right turn, Clyde. The state of Ohio has filed an antitrust lawsuit against Cargill, Inc. and Morton Salt over accusations of artificially inflated rock salt prices. We need to tell the two fat guys this.
Rock salt.
Rock salt problems. Let me see here. Police officer, those aren't boring. We won't talk about those. That's all we got in legal news. Obamacare, you're going to get to listen to some more arguments. I get sent some of these things, and they're usually not worth doing. But I've decided that this is funny enough to use.
Okay.
The top 10 reasons men prefer guns over women. Now, this doesn't apply to me, TC. I prefer a woman to a gun.
Okay, this is a list that someone else
sent me
put together. Okay.
This is something, a gun lover, obviously. You can trade an old 44, this is number 10, for a new 22.
Ooh.
Number 9, you can keep one gun at home and have another for when you're on the road.
I like that one.
Doesn't work very good if it's a woman. Number 8, if you admire a friend's gun and you tell him so, he'll probably let you try it out a few times.
Man,
doesn't work.
Love your gun.
Doesn't work with your friend's woman. Number 7, your primary gun doesn't mind if you keep another gun for a backup.
Yes.
Does not work with the wife. Number 6, your gun will stay with you even if you run out of ammo.
Ooh.
Financial hardship causes a lot of marital discord.
Yes, it does.
Number 5, a gun doesn't take up a lot of closet space. Number 4, guns function normally every day of the month.
Oh, ooh.
Ouch.
Back away from that joke.
Number 3, a gun doesn't ask, do these new grips make me look fat? Number 2, a gun doesn't mind if you go to sleep after you use it. By the way, TC, why has that got to be such an issue?
I don't know.
It is a proven scientific fact that chemical that releases makes us tired.
Yeah. It's like the tryptophan in the
Correct.
turkey,
Number 1, this is so good. The number 1 reason why men, not me, but some men, prefer guns over women, you can buy a silencer for a gun.
Ta-da!
Ow! Ouch! Shanna just walked by with a nasty look on her face.
Yeah.
I don't think she liked our gun jokes.
And let's reiterate, this was
this was somebody else.
They're sent in. Yeah.
This is not the Bulldog Nation. Mark, the producer, has a call.
Yeah, he has a comment.
Mark, the producer, say something witty or wise.
Dude, that was awesome, by the way, with the guns. Hey, no, question. I heard you talking earlier about the bombs. I mean, what is the point of having the most bombs? Why does a nation need the most bombs?
Are you talking about, our country?
Yeah, you were talking about
Are you
Iran.
some kind of a peacenik, Mark?
Well, I'd rather be a peacenik than get blown up.
Well, here's why you need a lot of bombs. There's a lot of things that need bombing.
Like what?
Well, Russia, China, North Korea, Iran. There's a lot of places that need bombing.
Well, why do they need bombs?
You can't bomb without a bomb.
I'm not saying we don't need bombs. Why do they need bombs?
You're absolutely right, Mark. Iran does not need any bombs.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. I thought I handled that very well.
Yeah, you did.
Is that another call? Boy,
I don't know, man.
We're breaking a record for people calling in on a morning show.
Really? We got about 30
You know what
seconds.
it is? Because I've become more caller-friendly. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, the American Juror, if you want to reach me, email me at eric@ericdieters.com, or you can text me at 859-250-2527. I'm also all over Facebook, Eric Dieters, and also you can follow me on Twitter, Bull.
You know, you've become a kinder, gentler talk show host.
Yes.
Nah, you haven't.
No, not
You
really.
just like calls now.
We'll be back tomorrow with more Radio Superbity. Every dog has their day. I hope tomorrow is yours on Real Talk 1160.